Let's finish things off talking a little bit of Pittsburgh Steelers as they enter week 2 of the 2026 NFL preseason, taking on the New York Football Jets a little bit later this week at Acrisure Stadium. But I do want to take this back to last week. There was a bit of news that didn't get to talk about on the show last week that I'm really excited about. And I was very, very excited when I saw the news that the Pittsburgh Steelers had re-signed inside linebacker ELANDON Roberts to a 1-year deal. And if that name sounds familiar and you're more of a casual fan, it's a good thing that you've heard of him before, because he made an impact when he was with the Steelers the last time from 2023 to 2024. He is not a quiet player at the inside linebacker position. He's physical. He talks the talk and he walks the walk in a lot of ways as well. So I'm personally very excited that ELANDON Roberts is back with the Steelers organization. He left last year in free agency, going over to the Las Vegas Raiders, where he played under current Steelers defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. So a lot of familiarity with the defensive scheme. He should be able to slot right back in and be able to kind of understand what Patrick Graham wants from him in that position. So that should be a positive for ELANDON Roberts. Not only that, he's returning to a very familiar linebacker room. I mean, the last time he was in Pittsburgh, Peyton Wilson was a rookie. Patrick Queen was in his first year with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Cole Holcomb was still with the organization. So he's returning to a familiar room too. So it should be a situation where he just slides right back in, and there shouldn't be too many growing pains for ELANDON Roberts. And in Roberts, the Steelers are getting an elite run stopper. Like, that's the book on ELANDON Roberts. How often do we hear Cam Hayward say, for our defense, and for really every defense in the league, it starts with stopping the run. But Cam Hayward preaches that every single week. Well, ELANDON Roberts is going to help you in a huge way. This is I would call him the epitome of a downhill defender. Brings a lot more physicality to the middle of that defense. Not that we haven't seen Patrick Queen be physical, not that we haven't seen Peyton Wilson be physical, but in the run game specifically, ELANDON Roberts takes it to a completely different level. And we're seeing it on display pretty early in his second go around with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This from Penn Live's Nick Farabaugh a couple days ago on Sunday, saying, quote, E-Rob laid a few big hits, and that seemed to stoke some tensions. The offense finally had enough and fought back. It seems the new guy lit a fire in the practice. Let's not forget, a big storyline this entire training camp has been how the Pittsburgh Steelers have been focusing less on physicality in practice and more on details in practice. 1, 2, 3 at most days of ELANDON Roberts, and that is flipped on its head. And all of a sudden, the physicality is there. And all of a sudden, the training camp fights are there. And it wasn't just one fight. There were a couple fights on Sunday, and ELANDON Roberts and his physicality seemed to be at the center of it all. So I'm excited to have that guy back on the Steelers defense. I'm excited to have the guy who, I believe it was against the Dallas Cowboys in 2024. It was 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line, who was able to dive across the line, punch the ball out of the running back's hands, unable to come away with it. And they did eventually score, I believe, on 4th down, but still a guy who in that moment made a play to keep the Steelers' hopes alive. A guy who in those goal line situations is not afraid to go in there and light somebody up. A guy who is going to be able to help an already solid run defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers were 13th in the NFL last year in run defense, which is not bad. It's certainly not where you want to be. You want to be a top 5 unit in every category, but that's a good base. And considering what you have in front of ELANDON Roberts now, that you didn't have the first time around when he was with the organization, considering you have a Keanu Benton, who is much more comfortable in his role, considering you have Derek Harmon, who is expected to take a huge leap in year 2, considering you have Y.A. Black, who's expected to have a really good season, considering you have Sebastian Joseph Day and you have a lot of depth in that defensive front, there's a good chance for Roberts to step in here and make an immediate and noticeable impact for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The concern with ELANDON Roberts is the same as ever. And there's a lot of people that immediately started talking about, well, will his pass coverage hold up? We don't trust his pass coverage. That remains to be seen. The good thing is you have two pretty solid linebackers in that department with Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen. But what ELANDON Roberts brings to this defense is a little bit of confidence, borderline cockiness, and a lot of physicality. And I think anybody who watched the Pittsburgh Steelers last year would admit to you and would agree with you if you said that's something that they could have used a lot more of. So excited to see that it's back with ELANDON Roberts. Excited to see him likely play in his first preseason action on Friday against the New York Jets. And just in general, excited to have E-Rob back with the Pittsburgh Steelers.